Welcome to the Gun Fu Training Channel. My name is Jeff. In today's private security episode, we're going to have a debrief on an incident which occurred to me on the job about a week ago, where I had to deploy OC spray on a rather aggressive individual. So for details on that, stay tuned. Okay, folks, let's get on with the debrief. So the company I work for is contracted to do security for a local restaurant that's very popular, that has an attached patio bar where they have, on certain nights they have karaoke, other nights they have live music. Very, very popular venue. Well, on this particular night, at closing time as normal, I'm usually posted by the front door, and my job is, after closing, to allow customers that are going to leave, allow them to exit, but to lock the door behind them and not let anyone else in. So what ended up happening is a number of people had left, and there came a knock on the door. I opened the door, there were two females there, and they said one of them had left the purse on the patio, or thought they did, and asked if they could come back inside. So I let them inside, locked the door behind them, and directed them over to the manager, who took them out to the patio. Well, within a few more minutes, there was another knock on the door. And when I opened the door, I recognized this individual as having been part of their entourage. And in fact, there were the other members of their entourage. There was a taller gentleman out there, another lady, and then this individual that I was facing, who was about 35, 40 pounds heavier than me, about 2 inches or so taller. And he said, "Yeah, I need to get in." And I said, "Well, I'm sorry, sir, no one else is coming in." He goes, "Well, they want me to help them come look for the purse." And I said, "Well, they're working with management right now to locate the purse, but I can't let anyone else in, so you're going to have to wait." And at that point, this gentleman, and you'll pardon my language, he said to me, looked me up and down, "I could just push your ass out of the way and walk in if I wanted to." And I said, "No, you're not going to be pushing anybody." And I pulled the door closed and I locked it. As Bruce Lee once said, you can call it the art of fighting without fighting. I closed the door and locked it. Perfect solution to the situation, because he can't come in, and no one had to get no one had to get violent or aggressive at that point. However, immediately starts cussing. There's F-bombs. There's yelling from the other side of the door. And if that had been it would have been a nice evening for everyone, because this person, again, he was intoxicated, and he was obviously getting very aggressive. But if I hadn't had to open the door again for him, he eventually, within about 10 or 15 minutes, that would have burned off. And when his two friends had come out, found the purse or whatever, if they had come out and that was all resolved, he would have left. Unfortunately, I had to continually keep opening that door to let other people, as they were trickling out of the restaurant, I had to keep opening it, which kept giving this individual a chance, or maybe in his mind, some hope that he could get back inside the restaurant or push past me or do exactly what he threatened to do. So each time I would open the door, it was more of the same, and this door opened out to the left, and this gentleman was to my left-hand side. So I opened the door again and let some folks out. I'm looking around the door, and he starts approaching, and I pull out the canister of the OC spray, and I said, "Sir, you need to back away from the door. More FU, more MF, more of the same thing." Let the folks out, close the door. This happened a couple of times. I had informed the manager of the restaurant, who was maybe about 15 feet away behind the counter, let him know what was going on. He said not let the guy in, so I obviously wasn't going to let this gentleman in. Next thing that happens, more folks have to leave. And I open the door, let these folks out, and there was a few. And at this time, when the door was opened, I kind of had to move forward a little bit, and this guy, again, is at this point maybe about 10 feet away, I guess. And, more threats, "I'm going to come over there, I'm going to do this to you," or whatever. Pulled out the canister again. I'm like, "Sir, need you to back up, or you're going to get the hot sauce." And his reply was, "F you, you MFer, I'll shoot your blankety blank." So now this guy, who was intoxicated, who'd been very aggressive, has now made a terroristic threat. Now, he was wearing a hoodie. Whether or not he had a gun at that point, I didn't know. You know, he was kind of chubbier. He had a hoodie on. It was kind of baggy. So I leveled the pepper spray at his face, and I said, let's see your gun. And he goes, well, I don't have a gun. And my response was, well, then you're going to have to leave. So I closed the door and locked it. And at this point, I got with the manager and I said, you know, we need to call 911. I said, this guy's getting very aggressive. Every time I have to open the door, this thing is escalating and there's no solution to it. I said, we probably need to have the police here. He just threatened to shoot me. Terroristic threat. Well, manager takes his cell phone, 911. I don't know why he handed it to me. He should have just called him and dealt with him himself. But he handed me the phone and there was a recording. Thank you for calling Austin 911. Someone will be with you eventually. Please just wait. If this is a real emergency, hang on. Something to that effect. And after the phone, message had been playing for a couple of minutes, I just hung up the phone and gave it back to the manager. And I said, they're not coming. No one's answering the phone. And he said, well, he wants that guy off the property. So what ended up happening is the two females had come back to the front, didn't find the purse. They needed to leave, so the manager was right there with me. He was kind of talking to them a little bit. Door opens, we let these two out. The rest of the entourage is out there. And there's this individual off to the left-hand side, again cussing up a storm. At this point, again, he was a little closer, maybe about 8 to 10 feet tops from me. And the manager said, I want him off the property. And I said, sir, I grabbed the pepper spray again. I said, sir, you're going to have to leave. And there was more F you, and there was this kind of thing. And I said, sir, I want you off the property. Do not approach me. And this guy made the wrong move. He clenched his fist and proceeded to kind of roll up on me, as the phrase goes. Had the pepper spray leveled at him, and I pushed the button and emptied a can of pepper spray into this guy's face. So it was amazing. The profanity, the aggression, yelling, screaming, macho attitude, all of it was gone. This guy took a can of pepper spray to the face. He got quiet, turned around, walked over to one of the vehicles where his buddy was, and me and the manager immediately closed the door. Manager was literally over my right shoulder when this occurred, witnessed everything. I said, we need to go back in. We closed the door. Due to being at the door, there was a little bit of kind of wind kind of coming in and out the entrance to the building. A little bit of blowback from the pepper spray. I caught a little bit, coughed a little bit, not too bad, just very light. Manager coughed a little bit, and he actually, since I wear glasses, he actually got a little bit in his eyes. A little bit of blowback, but not too bad. And that was pretty much it. And no sooner are we back in there than the manager's cell phone rings. And it's 911 saying, yes, we received a call from this number. Do you need emergency assistance? And he handed the phone to me. And I said, well, we did need emergency assistance, but we don't need any help now. Thank you very much. And that's kind of the issue that you have. That's one of the takeaways that I'm going to mention at the end of this is that if you're working private security, chances are nowadays the police aren't coming. But we'll get into that. I went ahead and contacted my direct supervisor with the security company just to let him know there was a use of force that occurred. There were witnesses, I had names, I had numbers for people, that sort of thing. I had to document it and whatnot. And I went to the back of the restaurant to take this call. The threat was taken care of. This gentleman wasn't going to be coming back and causing any problems, at least not that night. And after I spoke to my boss with the security company and I came back up front, the manager said, hey, Jeff, just want to let you know, the two females came back in. They located the purse that was in her vehicle the entire time. So what are the takeaways? Well, first and foremost, don't be a jerk, okay? Most often, and this is the thing I've learned in the time that I've been working private security, most often these problems occur because people have had too much to drink. Alcohol seems to be the common denominator. At any venue that I've worked at that serves alcohol, that is the problem. People have too much to drink, which may be under the legal limit, but they've had too much to drink, and it kind of changes the way that they act towards people and the way they view things. So number one, don't be a jerk. Don't take a situation, that could be very easily resolved and make it into something that it's not. And I know as a guard, the folks that are listening to this video, that are fellow guards, this is mostly applied to other people, but you may be in a situation where someone is acting like a jerk, okay? Do everything that you can to de-escalate the situation, as I did. I had asked this gentleman several times, sir, please step away from the door. Sir, I'm going to have to hit you with the spray. If you don't back up, sir, I don't want any problems. And always, sir. Always respectful. Number two, the takeaway, the one I just mentioned earlier, the police aren't coming. So when you defund the police and you disrespect the police and police are made to be the bad guys and you treat law enforcement like they're garbage, okay, these kind of things are going to happen. People are going to retire that don't want to be cops anymore. Fewer people are going to want to get the job to be cops. And when you defund the police and they have a lot fewer resources, that affects not just morale, but manpower and training of law enforcement officers and the ability to hire people to work for 911 and actually answer those calls and screen them and determine if someone needs to have an officer dispatched or not. So this whole thing that has happened in our culture over the past couple of years, I'm not trying to get too political, but if you treat law enforcement like that, the people that are willing to stand between a bad guy and a good guy, and you do this, we're going to have more and more of these things happen. And this is not the first time this has happened in this town that I live in, where private security, there's been someone getting aggressive or even someone who has assaulted someone, and the police aren't coming. Okay, so my advice is always use the most prudent course of action. Okay, there is a thing known as the force continuum. Starts off with officer presence, goes into verbal commands, it can go into soft force, it can go into hard force, it can go into lethal force. Hopefully it doesn't get to that, but always choose the most prudent course of action. In this particular situation with this individual, much larger than me, outweighed me by quite a bit. I could have gone hands-on with him in this situation, but he was very, very aggressive, and he might have gotten injured in the process of me trying to subdue him and get him off the property. I could have gotten injured, and really, in my mind, the least harm in the situation was done by deploying that OC spray. So, did the guy feel bad for a couple of days afterwards? I guarantee you he did. But no one was seriously injured, no one lost an eye, no one lost a tooth, no bones were broken, no property that I was employed to guard, none of that property was damaged. And all in all, it worked out. Of course, again, at the end, it was kind of unfortunate, but the purse had been actually in the lady's vehicle the entire time. So this gentleman who had kind of lost his mind and became a hothead had absolutely no reason to get so worked up that the purse wasn't even in the restaurant ever. It was located out in the car. So that's pretty much it. My advice is get you some good OC spray. I'll admit that prior to this incident, I was thinking about not carrying OC spray. I wasn't really a big fan of it, but it did tend to work quite well in this situation. And yeah, I think it's a good option to have. So that's pretty much it for today's debrief. If you guys have any questions, please leave them in the bottom. If you have some positive comments to leave, please leave some comments. We'd always like to hear good things and also be able to provide some guidance and help to folks. And as always, if you're working a post, be safe, keep your head on a swivel, and thank you so much for watching the Gun Food Training channel. We will see you guys next time. Thank you.